Hi everyone, how are you doing? Well, how is your scripture study going? And I'm so grateful that we can study the Bible together today. We're going to study 1 Samuel chapter 8 today. We previously talked about Hannah conceiving and dedicating Samuel to the Lord. Samuel grew up under the tutelage of Eli, the priest. The Lord called Samuel as a prophet, and all Israel recognized him as a prophet of God. He later served as a judge over Israel. He lived in the 11th century BC. Now take a look at his later ministry to the house of Israel, starting at verse 1. And it came to pass when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted judgment. Now I would like to quickly share the scripture that talks about the nature of man. Doctrine and Covenants, section 121, verse 39 states, "We have learned by sad experience that it is the nature and disposition of almost all men, as soon as they get a little authority, as they suppose, they will immediately begin to exercise unrighteous dominion." Anyways, verse 4. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. I have a question. Why do you think Samuel was displeased when the people asked him if they could have a king? Do you think it could have meant rejection of leadership? Or Samuel may have felt that people were rejecting the divinely guided system of judgeship. Well, we are celebrating 205th anniversary of the Constitution of the United States. How blessed are we to have a constitution like ours? We are free. And as I said before, we elect our leaders by a democratic process. I know that this country, the United States of America, was divinely instituted by God. Doctrine and Covenants, section 101, verse 77 through 80, it talks about God established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men. He says, by the hands of wise men whom I raised up unto this very purpose. Some citizens of the United States do not appreciate this country and what it stands for. It is somewhat difficult for me to understand, having left my home country to come here for the freedom that exists in this country. It is, in my view, one of the best places to live politically and socially. Religious freedom is constitutionally protected. Verse 7, And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. They rejected the system. What was the system? I looked up some information about the judges back then and what they did and what their protocols were like, and I found these scriptures. Chapter 7, verse 15 through 17 reads, "And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life, and he went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all those places. And his return was to Ramah, for there was his house, and there he judged Israel, and there he built an altar unto the Lord." Also, the Lord commanded these judges to be fair and righteous. Deuteronomy chapter 16, we find, "Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, and they shall judge the people with just judgment." Chapter 17 talk about how they handled on difficult cases. "If they arise the matter too hard for thee in judgment, then shalt thou arise and get thee up into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose." So the Lord established a higher authority for difficult cases. Local judges handled the ordinary matters, but harder cases were brought before priests and judges appointed by the Lord. I would like to relate this to common judge of Israel today in our church. When we commit sin, we often tend to make excuses. We may not know whether what we have done is serious enough to speak with the bishop about, or whether it will require formal church discipline. In other words, we cannot always judge our situation objectively. Our personal feelings can influence our judgment. That is why the Lord has established judges in Israel. They can help assess matters objectively and provide counsel, guidance, and when necessary, determine the appropriate course of action. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 8, "According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and shew them the manner of the king that shall reign over them." God is commanding Samuel to talk to the people about the consequences, or what the people are choosing. I'd like to cover some scripture and the words of the prophet and our leaders regarding agency. Doctrine and Covenants, section 93, verse 30 states, "All truth is independent in the sphere in which God has placed in it to act for himself." David A. Bentner has repeatedly taught this principle. God will not force righteousness upon us. He leads, invites, and allows us to choose. President Darling H. Oaks has taught a key principle. Quote, "We are responsible for our own choices, even though God knows the end from the beginning." End quote. Even God does not violate the agency of man or nullify it by ignoring or dismissing it. He is neither apathetic nor passive aggressive. Agency is an eternal principle. Parents who care about their children teach their children what the best course is for them. They are to teach the choices and their consequences. But parents must let their children choose if they know the choice is even if the choice is wrong and may bring negative consequences. I believe it is one of the toughest things to be a parent. Anyway, God allows the people to have a king. Verse 10, and Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. So this is where Samuel is teaching what a king would do. Verse 11, and he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over fifties, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Okay, ample warnings are given to the children of Israel, or the people in Israel, of Israel. And so basically, Samuel told the people the following things. A king would, king would take sons for military service. He will take daughters for various forms of service. He will take the best fields, vineyards, and olive groves. He will impose taxes and take a portion of their produce. He will claim servants, livestock, and resources for his own purposes. The people will become, in a sense, servants of the king. Verse 19, nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, nay, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us, and go out before us, and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go ye every man unto his city. In summary, it was not God's original intent for Israel to have a king. The people chose to have one. God warned them of the consequences, but he allowed them to follow their desires. That is one of the lessons we learn from chapter 8 today. We cannot escape the consequences of our choices. Through his prophets, the Lord warns us about his will and about the paths that lead away from it. In our next podcast episode, we will continue the story and follow the process by which Israel received the king. Thank you, and meet you again in the next episode.